Now, I do want to maybe switch gears to term limits because this was something that was brought up in your debate with your opponent, Mr. Luke Negron, who has been very adamant in his campaign, about term limits. So, as somebody who has been in Congress for 25 years, would you support term limits in the Senate and the Congress because this was a survey conducted in 2018 by a Republican law firm called McLaughlin, and Associates. They found that 82% of Americans were in favor of a constitutional amendment that would place term limits in members of Congress, and this is according to the website The Hill. Would this be something you would support?
No, there is a term limit. I mean, this is the confusing thing a member of Congress's term is 2 years. That's your term. You're never guaranteed more than a 2-year term. It's not up to me whether I get to serve more than one term or 2 terms. It's up to the 700,000 people in Western Pennsylvania that I represent. So every 2 years, I have to reapply for my job. I don't really know too many professions where you have to reapply for your job every 2 years, but mine's one of them. And then the people I represent have to make a decision. Is Mike Doyle someone we want to send back to Washington, D.C. to represent us, or we think maybe it's time for somebody different to do it because we're really not pleased with the way he's representing us. His votes don't reflect our beliefs or our concerns. He's not been active enough in the district. He's not really helped Pittsburgh move forward. You know, we need somebody that's going to be a little bit more dynamic or whatever reason. And every 2 years, that process takes place, not only in a general election, but in a primary election too. So voters in the Democratic Party might say, you know, Mike Doyle's not the kind of Democrat that we want representing us in Congress. We want somebody a little more liberal. We want somebody a little more moderate, you know, or we want somebody that's going to be for this issue or that issue. And so I have had primary opponents in my last 4 or 5 elections, my last 5. And then I have general election opponents too. So every 2 years, there's 2 opportunities to say, we want somebody different. And it's not my choice. It's the choice of people in Western Pennsylvania who go to the polls and express their desire to see me continue to serve them or to pick somebody else. I think that's a pretty fair process. And I think it works well. So I don't know what some Republican law firm survey says. I'm sure, you know, this is an issue popular with Republicans, and they've tried to make it an election issue. I don't think it carries much sway with voters because voters have the opportunity to vote for who they want. So I have a term limit. It's 2 years. Come November 3rd, my term could be up. People in Pittsburgh could say, you know what? You've been there too long. You're not really representing us the way we want to be represented. And we want a new voice in there, and they can go to the ballot box and they can do that. So I think that system works well.
Yes, yeah. But what would you have to say to maybe people who maybe criticize there not being term limits because it just seems like career politicians can just keep their power and they might not truly care about the people they serve because they know they've been in there for so long? What would you say to those people?
Well, I'd say that they're not really looking at the turnover in the Congress. When you look at the makeup of the United States Congress, people that have been there 3 terms or less are the majority now. So there's a lot of turnover taking place in the United States Congress every 2 years. You'll see a lot of it this election too. You're going to see a lot of incumbents get beat, and you're going to see a lot of new faces. We saw it in the 2018 cycle. We had 61 new members come into the Democratic caucus. So there's that's like, you know, there's a constant turnover in the Congress, and that's a healthy thing too, because you need 3 things. You need people with the institutional memory of Congress. Otherwise, staffs run the government, not elected officials. So you need people that understand how these committee structures work and how the system works. And then you need new ideas coming in every 2 years. And I think we're seeing that in our Congress. There's lots of turnover taking place. as far as this career politician thing, I think it's funny. People run and they sing, "I'm not a politician." I'll never forget, there was a person on my committee started a speech that way. And I said, well, guess what, buddy? You're a politician now. You know, you might be able to have that little mantra when you were first running for office, but you're an elected official now. So you're one of us. It's the only profession I know where experience is somehow looked down on too. I mean, if we have someone that's been a cardiologist for 20 years and is really good at what he does as a cardiologist, that's the person we want to go to. Somehow, if you're a member of Congress who sits on a key committee like I do, or on a Ways and Means committee, and you've become an expert in tax policy or in telecommunications policy or energy policy, somehow that isn't valued by some people. So I just think voters ultimately have the final say-so. And all this talk of career politicians or political power, I'm the son of a steel worker. I grew up in a blue-collar family in Swissvale, okay? I've been married 45 years to my wife, who also grew up in Swissvale, and we raised 4 kids. And I've lived in this district my entire life. The idea that I'm some, political power person, or I come from some power family is kind of funny to me. It's talk. And I just think people judge you on your actions, not what you say, but what you do. And every 2 years, 700,000 people in this great part of the world that I love and have lived in all my life can tell me to go home anytime they want. And they do it frequently all over America. And I feel privileged that the people in Pittsburgh have chosen to send me back as many times as they did. And I continue to work very hard on their behalf. And I think they see that work ethic, and they know how much I care about them and this region. And I think that's one of the reasons on election day, I feel comfortable about what the result's going to be. But you never know till the votes are counted.